guys, I'm Rebecca with That Organic Mom, and I had promised on a recent blog post that I would share with you the progress I had made while we were on our recent trip to DC. While I was on this trip to DC, my mom and I tried to stick to the Trim Healthy Mama plan as much as possible, and I did share a blog post with all of the pictures of the food that we chose while we were on the trip. At the bottom of that blog post, I said that I would share about my progress, and that's what this video is going to be about. So, I had mentioned in my blog post that my mom maintained her weight. She did not gain or lose while she was on our trip. My mom mostly chose the exact same meals that I did. My mom drinks her coffee black, and I drink my coffee with cream, either heavy whipping cream or half and half. So that would be the only difference. I have lost this year so far about 14 pounds, and I did put my progress in that particular blog post, but I wanted to let you know that during the trip I actually gained almost 2 pounds. So it was like a pound, like 1.8 pounds or something. I do tend to hold water when I'm traveling. I'm not sure why. I did want to encourage you that if you're like me, and no matter how hard you try to stay on plan, no matter what plan it might be, if you tend to gain weight when you travel, a lot of times it might be water weight. So when I returned home, I weighed myself the morning after I returned, and that's when I found the 1.8 pound increase. So I knew that it was most likely water weight because this has happened to me before. So what I did was, for the next 2 days, I drank my typical sippers all day long. I drank lots of water, and I just continued to follow the plan like I usually do. I didn't do anything else different. I normally do not weigh myself every day, but because I was doing this just to see if I had actually gained weight or if I was retaining water, I did weigh myself for the next 3 days. The second day I weighed myself, I was down by 1 pound, and the third day I weighed myself, I was down by 2.5 pounds. So technically I did lose weight while I was traveling, but I just needed to lose the water retention that I had gained while I was traveling. I've talked to several other ladies, and I know this happens to a lot of people, so I just want to encourage you when you're traveling just to stick to your plan. And this can happen when you're at home too, if you eat out and you make even the best choices, sometimes because the ingredients at restaurants can be different. And sometimes if you're using pink sea salt at home, or a different kind of like real salt at home, and then you eat out, sometimes the sodium in those meals will tend to cause you to have a little water retention. And there can be other factors as well. For me, I have a thyroid problem, and I'm recovering from adrenal fatigue, stage 3 adrenal fatigue. So I'm a lot better off now than I was a year or even 2 years ago, but I still have a healing body that I take into account whenever I'm looking at these comparisons. And speaking of comparisons, that's the main reason I wanted to do this little video, is to remind you that your body is unique and different. You could be taller, you could be shorter, or your past could be different. Maybe you've had 6 kids like me, or maybe you've never had children. All of these factors come into play when it comes to things like weight loss. So each person is individual and unique, and you really shouldn't compare yourself and your progress and your journey to someone else. I know it's hard. I fall into the comparison trap myself all the time, but I just wanted to encourage you and give you a few tips to help you not to fall into this trap. First of all, I wanted to say that comparisons are always unfair because of the things I just mentioned: different body shapes, different body types, different nutritional intake. All of these things factor in. So really, a comparison is not fair. Okay, another thing is that comparisons usually require measurements. And unless you're comparing your own measurements to your prior measurements, then that is also not a fair comparison. That we know not all good things can be measured. Because, for example, I can only compare my progress with my prior self. You know, before, when I was really suffering with stage 3 adrenal fatigue, it was hard for me to even stay up past 7 p.m. I had a hard time just getting through my day. I tried to do all of the most important things, the top priority stuff at the beginning of the day, because I knew I would run out of energy. If I compare myself now to myself 2 years ago, I've made huge progress, and that type of progress cannot be measured. And you have your own special circumstances, so you should not compare your progress to someone else as well. Another thing I wanted to point out is that because you're unique and God has given you special gifts and special talents, you really can't compare yourself to someone else. I have several friends and relatives who are really good at various other things. I have a best friend who is capable of doing things that I can't even fathom myself doing. She's just very nurturing, and she can go into hospitals and take care of sick people and just take care of problems that there's no way I can do that. I have a phobia of hospitals. Even if my most loved relative is in a hospital or a nursing home, I struggle to go visit them because it's hard for me. You know, I have anxiety in that area, where she's really good at it. So it's not fair for me to compare myself to her, because I have strengths that she doesn't have and she has strengths that I don't have. If God made us all exactly alike, it would be really boring. And that's another good point, is that God did make us all unique individuals so that she can help me with my weakness and I can help her with hers. Another thing that the comparison trap does is to steal and rob your passion, your drive, your motivation. So it's not a good idea to compare yourself, because when you do those things, most of the time it really just gets you nowhere. If it gets you somewhere, it's further behind. Another point I want to make about comparison is that when you compare yourself to someone else, you're putting the focus on the wrong person. The only person's life that you can really change is your own. So when you make a comparison, you're actually putting the focus on someone else when the focus should be on yourself, because you make changes to your life to better your life. Of course, we always want to help out our friends and relatives, and I love having community support with other girls that are on this journey with me, but I do try not to compare my journey to theirs. One major problem with comparison is that it tends to lead to resentment. Resentment, bitterness, anger, envy, all of these things are just ugly emotions that really do not help us to get further ahead in our journey. And the last thing that I want to point out about comparisons and the comparison trap is that it tends to rob you of your joy. So whenever you feel yourself beginning to compare your progress and your journey to someone else, just stop and remind yourself of all of the accomplishments that you've gained, all of the progress that you've made. And even if you don't think, if you're trying to measure your progress by the scale or by measuring tape, just remember that progress is not always things that you can see. It could be increased energy levels. It could be better blood sugar levels, lower cholesterol levels. You could have an increase in your good cholesterol levels. There's so many things that you can't see on a daily basis. So don't think that you're not making progress, because you are making progress. If you make the right choice today, that is making progress. If you choose not to give up when you have an emotional day and you want to just eat your emotions, then you're making progress. So all of these things, I just say these to encourage you and to remind you that your journey is yours and it's unique. And please, please don't compare yourself to anyone else. So that's it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this little pep talk. And if you have any suggestions as far as how to keep your motivation and how to stay encouraged and how to stay on track, just leave them in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.